Hello, I'm Captain Mould.
And I'm Major Damp.
And we'd like to welcome you to this short presentation about condensation and mould. We've made this film to show what causes these common problems, and what you can do to help prevent them. The film lasts about 10 minutes and covers the following: what causes condensation, how to prevent condensation, when cooking, when drying clothes, when bathing, and some important considerations, such as fans, furnishings, and heating and ventilation. We also explain what Southampton City Council will do to solve mould problems caused by condensation, and who to contact for advice. Recognise these activities? Of course you do. They are a routine part of our daily lives. So let's take a look at a typical kitchen. No moisture problems here, but let's put the kettle on and see what happens. Well, as you can see, there wasn't a problem before, but now the windows have steamed up and water is starting to drip down onto the window sill. The steam from the kettle turned back into water again when it hit the cold window, and that, in a nutshell, is condensation. Everyday actions such as cooking, bathing, washing, drying clothes, even breathing, produce moisture. Each time we do any of these things, the air around us gets wetter, and when it can't hold any more moisture, water gathers on cold surfaces like windows, tiles, walls, ceilings, and even floors. The problem is worse when the room is cold. And when nothing is done to stop the condensation, you end up with mould. In fact, mould can easily be cleaned off, and it's best to do this before it really builds up. Any standard household cleaning product will do the trick. Just ensure you follow the instructions for use. Luckily, we can take actions to prevent mould forming altogether. When you're cooking, always cover pans to stop the steam from escaping, and ventilate the kitchen by opening a window slightly. And don't forget to close the kitchen door if you can. Whenever possible, dry clothes outside. If you live in a flat, or it won't stop raining, then dry them on a clothes airer, in a room that's cool, but not cold. The bathroom could be a good place. Never be tempted to dry clothes on radiators. This is one of the main causes of condensation, and can result in mould growth on wallpaper, soft furnishings such as your curtains or sofa, and even clothes, particularly if the radiator is in the bedroom. If you use a tumble dryer, make sure it's vented to the outside. Avoid using a non-vented tumble dryer, as these can make the problem worse. You can buy a self-condensing dryer, but these do tend to be a little more expensive. These collect water in a removable collection tray within the appliance. When you run a bath, always start with the cold water before you add the hot. This will reduce the amount of steam produced, and it's also much safer, especially if you have small children. Whether you prefer a bath or a shower, if it's not too cold, open the window a little. This will also help to minimize the amount of moisture within the room. After bathing or showering, wipe down the tiles to remove the surface water. We recommend using a squeegee and a sponge or leather. Then open the window and shut the door long enough to let the room dry completely. If you have an extractor fan, it's essential that you use it properly. After bathing or cooking, switch on the fan. That's if it doesn't start automatically. Then close the door behind you. This will allow the fan to draw moisture from the room more effectively, and also means that it won't just go into other parts of your home. Some fans are designed to be constantly running. They should not be disconnected. Their running cost is only a couple of pence per day, so any saving is negligible and is far outweighed by the cost of any damp and mould problems that might arise from so doing. If you have extractor fans, do use them. They really help. Try to avoid placing furniture against the wall, particularly outside walls, as this prevents air from moving freely and also traps moisture. This bed was placed against an outside wall, trapping moisture and encouraging mould growth. Never overfill wardrobes and cupboards, as this can also trap moisture and may result in damage to clothes. It can also make them smell musty. This is particularly important if the units are built in. Try to allow space between hanging items on a rail. To make room in your wardrobe, you might consider storing seasonal items in storage boxes. This type of thing may help you keep warm, but if the heating is off, then you will, in all likelihood, end up with a condensation problem. We realise that heating your home costs money. However, if you don't use your heating effectively, you could end up with higher energy bills and also suffer from condensation and mould. It can be cheaper to keep your home at a constant temperature, which is warm but not hot, than it is to crank up the heating or put the fire on when you feel cold. Setting the room or radiator thermostats to a constant temperature, about 19 degrees, means that your boiler doesn't have to work as hard, and you'll also be much less likely to get condensation and mould. Never be tempted to block off ventilation, not even in the winter time. Most windows have a vent to allow air to circulate, and this should not be closed in order to prevent drafts. If moisture behind curtains or blinds has nowhere to escape, it can result in water streaming down windows and walls. Sometimes condensation can gather on the bottom of walls, and people often think this is penetrating or rising damp. But if mould is also present, it's very unlikely to be damp. However, other factors can cause moisture and mould. For example, a leaky pipe, a leaky roof, or a hole in a wall where water is getting in from outside. If you suspect this is the case, then you should report the repair in the usual way. The City Council will fix the problem before carrying out any necessary mould treatment. All the City Council asks is that you consider the conditions surrounding the problem using the information provided before you request a repair. After we've made good the plasterwork as required on the wall and ceiling, some redecoration work will be necessary. Where there's an able-bodied resident in the household, or you've someone to help you, Southampton City Council will provide a redecoration voucher. Where the tenant is registrable as disabled, or is over 70 years old, the City Council will undertake redecoration of the area, but not the full room. If the City Council thinks the problems are being caused by things that you're doing, then they'll treat the mould and leave you information on how to prevent it happening again. However, if the problem comes back and they feel that you've not followed their advice, then you will be responsible for any necessary repairs. If the City Council agrees to carry them out, they will charge you for them. In certain circumstances, the City Council may refuse to do any further repairs. It's inevitable that you'll get condensation in your home at some time or other, but by following our advice, you can prevent it from becoming a major problem. Please remember, Unless you make the appropriate changes to such things as heating, ventilation, your lifestyle, and other factors we've mentioned in this film, the problem will persist. Thank you for taking the time to watch our film. We hope that you found it both interesting and informative. If you have any questions or are simply looking for advice regarding condensation, ring the Repairs Action Line 023 8083 3006.